Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got poet, playwright, author, director, Idris Goodwin with me. So welcome, Idris.
Hello. How are you?
How bad did I mess it up? Did I get close?
No, you weren't too bad. That was pretty good. Idris. Yeah.
Idris.
Some people don't get
that was it. I knew that.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's a difficult one to get used to saying. I think I've been saying it wrong.
Oh no. There is really no wrong way. Unless it's other name. Like some people just think I made a mistake and they're just like, your name's Iris.
They're going to help you out.
They're like, you meant Ivan. Stop playing Igor, right? But Idris, like I answer to all of these because, vowels are different. Like you go to different countries, people put different.
That's true.
Affects
names change slightly.
Exactly. So I don't trip.
I'm the worst.
Said with respect.
That's it. Much respect. I'm the worst at pronouncing names, probably partly because of this West Virginia accent. But that's a beautiful name. Good for your mother for picking.
Yeah, thank you.
I think she did a good job because I know I've watched your video. I know that you had some consternation with that name growing up, but
I did. Yeah,
it's a beautiful name. I think she did.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man.
Don't you picking names as a parent, one of the most stressful jobs that you'll ever have, because you want to get it right.
Yeah, 100%. I also think something happens to you when you're preparing for a kid to come. I think something happens to your brain a little bit, and then you go through these names, you pick names, and then maybe about a year afterwards, you're like, why did we something happens.
Well, that's true, but most of the time, the kid grows into the name.
Yes, that's true.
Like once they're a teenager, you're like, yeah, that's their name. It fits them. But when they're little and stuff, you're like, I don't know.
You're not sure. There was
you're not sure.
With our second son for sure. That was definitely because his name is August, but he was born in September. And so It's like we just didn't consider that at all. Like, now for me, I'm thinking about August Wilson, the playwright, right? I just also think August is just a cool
August
name.
is a great name. I've got a
Yeah.
close friend that their son is named August. I think it's a very like that could be a very Hollywood name, I think.
Yeah, and it's very, there's a lot of options. You can go Augie, you can go Gus, you can go, we call him Gusto, we call him Gusto
Oh, I
all the
like
time.
that.
Yeah, and Augs is a new
The
one.
best names
Yeah,
lend themselves to good nicknames.
that's right. Exactly. Some elasticity. Now, how did you, what's the story of your name? How did your folks learn?
Well, you know, my parents are the same way. You know, they at that time, Mike was the most popular name, and number two was David.
Classic.
You know,
Yes,
yeah,
solid.
classic. You know, number two was David, which is my dad's name. So like they chose to give me his first name as my middle name, so it's Michael David. With that, I go by Mike most of the time, unless I'm in trouble. You know, my wife or my mother, if they say Michael and if they put the David in, I know I'm in trouble. You know, but most times,
no, you straighten up.
Then when my brother came, they gave him David as the first name, but gave him a different middle name.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then they've always, you know, my mother especially, she's like, we should have just named you after your dad. And, you know, but I was like, well, then what would you call my brother?
Exactly.
You know, so I don't know that anybody is 100% satisfied.
Yeah, it is I just think something.
Like I've always been good with my name. I know, whatever.
You seem like a Mike.
That's what I said. I was like, Mike seems to fit. I'm okay with that. You know, my problem was always the last name because I thought it was too short. You know, so I would like if I use Michael when I'm writing because it makes the name a little longer instead of just Mike Wall. That feels too.
That's true.
Short. You know, there's not enough behind it.
That is true. There is a poetry to it. No, there is. You want to think about the poetry of it.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I don't know what you would pair with Wall. It used to be Walls, and somewhere back there, my grandfather decided he didn't need the S. He just dropped it. And
yeah, keep it. Yeah. No, let's. We're going singular. We don't need all the. You know,
it's one wall.
One wall. That's it. Stops here, homie. The one true wall, first of its name.
Is one wall.
One wall. That's it. We done. We through. Let's move on.
So I wanted to ask you because I listened to your explanation, which it's that video of you kind of going through your name, hilarious. I love it because
I'm really proud of it.
Because I think a lot of people do that, and you did the perfect. You know, the one I watched, you were in a coffee shop, which is the perfect one because they have to spell it out on the cup, and I always feel sorry for them because they're guessing, you know, most of the time.
And names are flying at them every, you know.
Yeah, they're just guessing. But I thought that was terrific. But I wanted to ask you, what does breakbeat poetry mean? What is, because like I listened, I'm like, okay, that was kind of poetic. I get that, but what does that type of poetry mean?
Oh, it's just, you know, it's my little nod to just like hip hop. And, you know, I was born in 1977. So, you know, I was growing up in the city of Detroit, and just like hip hop, the Run DMC, and just all of it was new when I was a kid. And that's what woke up the sort of, I think I was born a creative. I was born to be a storyteller. And I just think that music just kind of woke it up first. And just the beat, just like that rhythm. And also like what I like about rap is that like rap is, you can carry it in your pocket, you know, like, you know, you can bust it out. You can do it. It's accessible. And so for me, breakbeat poetry is like, it's rhythmic and it's accessible. So, you know, I'm not trying to be, you know, I can appreciate, you know, really good lyrical, abstract, dense, flowery poetry. But to me, breakbeat poetry, you got to be able to rock a middle school, a elementary school, the old folks home, and just make it plain, you know. So like, you know, my biggest inspirations are preachers, rappers, and stand-up comics. And so, you know, somewhere in there,
I love that.
I found a style that is kind of a mixture of all three of those, where I always try to be a little funny because I'm always, you know, I'm a humorous person and I like to have a good time, and I'm contemplative, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. But I just like I write everything I write, even emails, have like a rhythm to them. So that's kind of the
Well, and I
long.
picked up on that because it definitely had a bit of a rhythm. It was very smooth.
No, thank you. Thank you.
It was very easy to listen to because I grew up
Good.
with that type of music too. I was an 80s baby, teenager. And then, early 20s. So I was in college and stuff through the 90s. That type of music speaks to me. So I get that. And then I've got my grandfather was a Baptist minister. And it
Okay.
kind of the way you were talking, it reminded me of listening to some of his sermons.
Yeah, you know the vibes. You know what it is.
Because he had a rhythm to it. When he got going, it was almost musical listening to it.
That's it. You got to capture the people, man. They got up early. It's not easy. You got to put the kids in the church clothes, everything. You better give them something.
Oh my gosh. Growing up, it was like if the door was open, we were there.
Yeah.
That was just how we kind of, and a lot of families in West Virginia in the 70s, that's just how we were raised. If the church was open, you were there.
You was there in the summer, when Bible school, all that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Detroit. I grew up in and around Detroit, and it was the same thing. I mean, it was like we were there throughout every Sunday, in the summer times,
That's a fairly easy drive from Detroit to West Virginia. I mean, it's a long drive, but it's not that bad of a drive. We've got family members in Michigan, not Detroit, Michigan, and it's 6-7 hours, something like that.
Yeah, it's not too shabby.
It's not too. You can get there. You don't have to take a plane.
No,
which is good because we only fly to like the hubs. We go to like Atlanta, Charlotte, Chicago, and then have to get the bigger planes to go anywhere else.
What's the major city in West Virginia? Like
Charleston's the capital. You've been up around Martinsburg. That's kind of one tip, and then the other one would be probably Wheeling, Huntington. Marshall University's in Huntington, so those are probably the biggest cities. And we're close. Where we are, we're in a little town called St. Albans, which is about 15 minutes out of Charleston, but we're only like 45 minutes out of Huntington. So we're kind of in the middle there.
Interesting.
What was what rappers were you listening to when you were a teen?
Oh my gosh. So sugar, I mean, 1979, Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight. You put that song on right now.
I'm still listening to that song.
That song is perfect.
It's on my phone. I still listen to that.
LL Cool J, Run DMC, that mid 80s crew was like, forget about it.
LL was so big back then.
Oh my God. He was the Jay-Z. He was the guy. Yeah. He was the guy. He was like 16 years old and like so much confidence. But for me, the big moment, like kind of what really kind of blew my mind and made me want to be a writer was Big Daddy Kane. 1988, Long Live the Kane, that album, man. That was my brother dubbed me a cassette. For those of you who are listening,
I know what that means.
We're under the age of 30. Dubbing, because he made me a dub, man, and I played that tape to death. I listened to that tape nonstop, and just his smoothness. So that it was a really great compliment you gave me when you said it was smooth, because that was Kane. It was like complicated.
He was very smooth.
It was complicated, but it was smooth.
Yeah.
And so he was a big hero of mine. And then, like I liked Kid and Play, I liked Public Enemy, I liked EPMD, like basically everything that came out in 1980.
I was a big at the time, which is kind of amusing to me now, but I was a big Kool Moe Dee fan from
Moe Dee was awesome. Oh, he's awesome. Definitely unsung hero. Like, yeah,
he could rap.
Oh, he was he's interesting because he was one of the guys in the 70s with the Treacherous Three.
Yeah.
And then he kind of moved into this new era of the 80s with a lot of the new generation that was coming in, and he had that battle with LL Cool J, and that's what that was about. That was him saying, "Oh, you think you're the young hot guy? Like I can still, But yeah, Moe Dee is definitely underrated, and
I think he is too. He was good.
Oh, he totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moe Dee is awesome. And then and I've just never stopped listening, man. I mean, I love that group, The Roots, a ton. Like,
the Roots is really I don't know who set that up to where they were going to be the Tonight Show band, but They did a good job. That group is
I
awesome.
know, that's a good gig right there. So yeah, those guys have been really. I've seen them a lot. They're probably one of the music groups of any genre I've seen live the most, and
Really?
I've always had like a transcendent. You know how like people used to follow Grateful Dead and stuff like that, like and Fish.
Yes.
I would do that with if the Roots left that show and just like did that, like
You follow them around?
I would be like, all right, kids, you about to be homeschooled. You about to be bus schools because
I'll see you after the tour.
I would follow the Roots all over. Just I love that group, man.
They are good.
They can do anything. They can play anything, cover any song. Like amazing. So yeah, I could go on and on. Still listening to hip hop today. You know, still analyzing the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. You know, like still.
Do you have a side? Do you have a side that you're on?
Oh, Kendrick Lamar is clearly the superior artist. he's just a better artist, period. Like he's got the technical skills, and I just think he made better songs.
Yeah, we saw him. He was at the ACL festival in Austin last October. He was late. He got held up on a plane somewhere, so he was like an hour and a half late. He was the headliner for that night.
Oh wow!
But you know, everybody hung out waiting on him.
Yeah,
they kept saying he's. You know, they kept giving us updates. You know, his plane has landed. He's on the interstate. That type of stuff. Everybody's hanging out. He was good though. He was worth the wait.
Oh, I bet he ripped it. No, I saw Amazon had they put out a tour, a concert, one of his shows on his last tour. And it was great, man. Like watching that video was really impressive.
Well, yeah, it's not just the musical ability, but his artistic talent is really strong. Like it's a whole experience when you see him in concert.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm a big fan. So yeah, it just not like Us is just a banger, and I just think he had the better. Drake's cool, but it's just a little kind of one note, you know.
Right. Yeah, I think that's.
Do you have a side? Are you gonna play?
No. I mean, I probably lean toward Kendrick, but you know, whatever. I was like, can we just get along?
You know what's funny? I'm loving these videos on social media of like people trying to explain the beef to their parents, to their older, and their parents are like, "Wait, what happened?"
Yeah, they don't get it.
That's like more entertaining.
They may not even know who they are.
Well, that's what's so funny about it. Is some do and some don't. But to me, that's more entertaining than the battle itself. It's like these younger people explaining to their older parents, like Drake and Kendrick's beef, but like going down the timeline of it. That is really entertaining.
We've needed a good beef. It's been a while since we've had a couple artists like beefing.
There's been like some attempts, but then they're like,
they kind of fade out real quick. Because this one back in the 80s and 90s, we had that all the time between rappers and stuff.
Absolutely. And of course, I think after Tupac and Biggie and the unfortunate deaths of those guys, I think everyone was like, all right.
Well, it got too much. Right. Yeah, that was out of control.
It's like, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. We don't want to go back to that.
This one was good though, to your point. Like this one was good because it was so quick. It was like,
it came fast. It's like it just happened all of a sudden.
And we all saw it. I mean, when was the last time we had a shared pop culture?
I don't remember the last time.
That to me is what's really exciting. Is that finally it's something we're all talking about that isn't just like Will Smith smacking Chris Rock.
Right. Which we all saw that too.
I know.
And I'm like, I saw, we went out to LA for the comedy festival they had out there, and we saw Chris Rock, which was awesome because he wasn't doing comedy. He was doing a table read for When Harry Met Sally. Whoa. And it was loaded. Like he had a cast that was doing the read. It was just unbelievable. But that's what they did. And he was amazing. But I know that a lot of people were there hoping that he would talk about Will Smith. He never even brought him up. I'm like, well, okay, we moved on from that.
Yeah. Wait, so this sounds incredible. What was he playing, Harry?
He was.
Whoa.
And it had Tracy Aaron Ross was playing.
Oh, Tracy Ellis Ross. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
Alice.
I
Yeah,
love her.
she
She's
was
hilarious.
playing, the female role, and she was unbelievable. She was
Yeah.
probably the best part of the whole thing. I mean, Chris
She's
Rock was
incredible.
great, but she was unbelievable.
No, I don't know if you saw that movie, American Fiction. It was like up
I
for
did. I watched it on the plane going out to LA. Unbelievable
the,
movie.
the scenes early on with her and Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah,
I sat up, and I don't want
they're
to
so
spoil it for
good.
anybody, but like, when she wasn't in it as much, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
she's an
I liked
amazing
it, but
actress.
like those scenes were like
Yeah,
so good.
yeah,
It
she's
was
an
so
amazing
good.
actress.
Yeah,
And that's
she's amazing.
that movie. I kept hearing about it, but
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like one I would like. And then I watched it. Unbelievable. I'm so
It's
happy I
hilarious.
watched it. Yeah,
I
it's
call it a
funny.
documentary. I'm like, that's a documentary.
It is kind of a documentary. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright, unbelievable.
Yeah,
He's so
fantastic.
good. So when you were growing up, when did
Yeah.
you figure out that you could write? Because you've
Oh,
written all of these plays.
yeah.
When did that come about? When did you say, okay, I think I could do this?
It's interesting. I'm writing a book right now. It's fiction, but it's like loosely based on my coming up, and so I'm trying to like divorce myself from this fictionalized version of it.
That's probably
It's
hard to
weird.
do
It's
because
weird. It's a little bit weird, though.
you got one now you're kind of promoting a little bit. It just came out
Yeah,
and you're already worrying about the next one.
I mean, got to, man. I mean, it's two different jobs, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, like, look at this,
Right.
and then you gotta be in doing R&D on the next one. But
Yep.
anyway, so man, it's funny we're talking about hip hop, but like that was probably the first writing I did, was writing rap lyrics and stuff when I was like, 11, 12, 13. The big moment was when I was 13. I got a boombox that had a mic jack in the
Oh,
back
yeah. Yeah.
and two tape decks, and I figured out how to record myself over
How
beats.
big was your boombox?
Oh, bro.
Yeah. So it was legit, like a
You had to lift from your
carrier.
legs. You had to lift from your legs. Like, no, it had the like speakers that slid off. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those. I was too young for like the ghetto blaster era,
Right.
the radio era. I was still being driven.
That
places.
was a very short period of time that those were really
Yes.
popular. But
Yeah.
when they were popular, everybody had them.
Bruh, yes, those classic material. So mine was more of the sort of like where they had the speakers that slid off.
Oh, yeah. I remember
that kind
those.
of deal. The CD player on top,
Yeah.
so I could record instrumental cassettes on a cassette, or I could do CD
Right.
beats. But that's when I got into like really understanding, being able to hear myself back, and that's all to this day. That is still useful to me. Like even
Yeah.
something I'm working on, I'll record myself saying it and I'll listen to it. And so with Your House Is Not Just a House, it was like it started as a poem. It started as something that I wrote for kids when the pandemic started. And so that's remained, is like writing and then writing and tinkering and then and writing and technology kind of, having a dance together. And then I kind of started teaching myself how to write screenplays.
Yeah.
When I was in like 16, 17. And then because I worked at a video store, the whole thing. And then I went to film school, Columbia College in Chicago in like 96, and took screenwriting classes and all that. And so, but I hung out with a lot of actors because I was in film school, and you always need people to like be in your student films.
That's right.
And we were shooting celluloid, so like I would need a whole weekend of your time because it just was more work, and so, and then theater, but they were all theater majors, right?
Right.
It's kind of weird that like there's no acting program in film school, which is a whole other conversation.
That is kind of strange. You
weird,
think it
right?
would go hand in hand.
It's weird. So anyway, theater parties were better than film parties. So I would always go hang out with all these actors, and they were like really cool folks, and I would go see their plays and like help them run lines. And I'm starting to discover these newer. I always thought plays were like, I didn't know there were like people writing plays,
right?
Contemporary. Like I thought plays were just all written like 100 and 200 years ago. I didn't know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know. I thought, who
Yeah.
knows any playwrights, right? Like, you know
Well,
what I
that's
mean?
it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
just
I
assume
didn't.
it's been here forever.
Yeah, like I doubt you're in the grocery store down in West Virginia and you go, oh, there's
Hey, there.
maybe if you're in Shepherdstown during the American Theater Festival,
There you
but
go. What's the
anyway,
is it Shepherd College that's in Shepherdtown?
I think that's what it
Yeah,
is. I
yeah.
want to say that's what it is.
Yeah,
Don't
that
hold
would
me to
make sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful festival, man.
We've
I'm
got a lot of
trying to come back.
we got too many, but we've got a lot of small colleges like that, the NAIA type of schools for such a small state. But like each town that one of them's in is kind of unique. You know, it's a whole thing with that. And yeah, Shepherd's College is pretty great. And we've got a few of those type of film festivals, which is you wouldn't expect from a little small state.
Telling you, you guys, you call it. Listen, I think y'all are the next Austin. Okay, you got to get it popping.
See, I think so too. We've been kind of leaning into the sports side of it. You know, we're outdoorsy, so we had like the national bike championships. You know, this past week, which was kind of cool. We got a lot of soccer coming in. They didn't even soccer wasn't even available until I was in high school. We didn't even have soccer in this area, and now you know Marshall won a national championship.
Oh, wow.
We've had some of the smaller colleges have won national champ. It's a big soccer state now.
See,
yeah,
out of doors. All you need is out of doors and some legs.
That's it. Well, that's the nice thing with soccer. Anybody can play it.
That's why it's global. That's why it's the global game. Anyway, but enough about that. Back to me. No,
enough of that sports nonsense.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I answered your question though.
You did. So the children's book. And it's awesome. I read it this morning. So it's Your House is Not Just a House. Correct. And I'll tell you why I loved it so much, because it deals with using your imagination. And that's when I was growing up, you know, we didn't have cable TV. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have iPads, any of that stuff. Yeah. So it's all about imagination. And I was a Star Wars kid. You know, I was 8 years old when Star Wars came out, the original New Hope. So I was all into those, you know, action figures and that type of stuff, but we didn't have a ton of money. So I had a few, you know, just a few, but that's all I needed, you know, because anything would become part of my imagination. You know, if I had an action figure that needed a sword, I'd use a sewing needle, you know, that type of stuff. You know, a tree trunk could be a whole city. You know, so I love the book. So talk a little bit about what it's about, you know, where the inspiration came from. But great job with the imagination. And it's like each page was a different little scenario.
Well, you know, first I got to give praise to Lorraine Nam, who illustrated the book.
Unbelievable.
Really
talented.
She really got it. And she really, I mean, like what I love, I'm still finding things, is the way that she creates this continuity with stuff he's playing with. So like you'll see him playing with one thing, and then like 3 pages later you'll see it still in the corner, you know, and then like a new thing. So anyway, but so it was 2020. The pandemic had just started. My son was in 2nd grade at the time.
You mean you actually used that time wisely?
Bruh, that was one of the most productive times of my whole life. Seriously, awesome. Especially the first 2 years, 2020 and 2021. Kind of weren't that bad. I hate to say it. I know it was hard.
I get that, because we were the same with the podcast. You know, it's for podcasting, everybody was at home. Nobody told us no. They're like, we got nothing going on.
Exactly.
So it really helped launch us.
Yeah, 2022. The last 2 years have been more challenging, but yeah, those first 2 were great. But yeah, so 2020, my son, you know, no more in person, and so I was thinking about him, and I was thinking about all these other kids, and I just started generating all of these things in that spirit. I was writing, I was writing these plays, these short plays for people to just do around the dinner table, you know, and a lot of the theaters were starting to want to fill up their YouTube pages that nothing was on, with just trailers, and suddenly they were like, we're gonna start doing. So Milwaukee Rep asked me to create something for their web channel. And I was thinking about my son. And so I wrote this poem called Your House is Not Just a House. And it was like, you know, it was longer. It was like more text than what's in the book now. But so anyway, did that, you know, put it out in the world, whatever, moving on to the next thing. Flash forward in 2021, 2022, we start, some members of my team and I, we start looking for book deals because I want to get into children's books because I do all this so much playwriting and theater work
Right.
for theater for young audiences, and a lot of what we do is adapt books, picture books,
I love
read.
that.
And I'm like, you read enough, and I got kids, so I'm like, you read enough of these things, you're like, I could write one of these, you know what I'm saying? And
I
so,
could do this.
and again, I'm a tinkerer, like for me, storytelling, film, stage, podcast, conversation at the bar,
Yeah,
stories are stories, right? And as a tinkerer, I want to figure out how to fit,
that's right.
everything into everything. And so so the book agent just really responded well to like a lot of my poetry work, like my spoken word, my breakbeat poetry stuff. She was like, this is it. And so this was the first one out of the gate. I have another one coming in 2026 based on a poem, but like, yeah, that was it. And so once we started working, we found the illustrator, we found Lorraine, it becomes a matter then of just paring it down and, really
Well,
tightening
that's
up.
it. How many illustrators did you look at before you chose Lorraine?
They suggested a few.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes about availability and other
Well, and
things.
you want somebody that's going to represent
Yeah,
your style as
yeah,
well, and that's
yeah.
not easy to find with that. But
No,
I thought that her illustrations matched
killed it.
perfectly with your works.
I knew it was on when she sent her first sketch, which was the kid in the book, and that kid looks just like my younger son.
Love that.
And I was like, is she like, I'm just like looking for like cameras. I'm like, how does she, we're still on lockdown. I'm like, how does she know, So that's when I knew it was on. And every time she sent anything, pages, sketches, it was like, hey, everybody, Lorraine just sent something. And we would print it out. We'd all look at it. And it was just a really fun process. And but yeah, you hit it on the head too, man. Like, just that everyone has that, and I knew new kids were going to be on lockdown. And so I just wanted to give them an invitation to, just like, you can still go on these wild adventures. And you said earlier, you were like, I didn't have, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have all that. We had to use our imagination. And I think because now we do, it's probably even more important that kids access their, right? Don't let the machines do it for you because someone imagined those machines. So you got to imagine beyond the machines, right? So don't let the machines is just going to imagine as far as it's been told what's possible. Like, what makes people is that ability to see it and then to like execute it, to
That's
like,
right.
Take the 5 years to say this hurts now, this sucks now, we're losing money now, but like, give me like, we're going to get there. That is what makes people to me. And I just want to get that in kids' heads early, like get it in them early. And
So important.
Using the rhymes and all that. Like my son, my kids have been the best test audience for me my whole career. That's my secret weapon, is that I've got my target audience lives in my house. And so and they love stories. And so when my 4-year-old asked for my book, obviously I feel like,
oh, it's amazing.
Like I don't nudge the book his way. He's got a whole stack, he's like, let's read that house. Read me that house. We got time. Let me hear that house.
I love that, and for a lot of reasons, but I'm in the grandfather stage. So I'm a papa. Right. So I've got 5 between 1 and 5. They're young.
Congrats.
And the great things with kids is if you leave them to their own devices, their imagination comes out.
Yep.
It's when, and it's a struggle, and I battle with it too, because when you're watching them, sometimes you need that break, or you need just a minute for whatever. And it's so easy to turn TV on or hand them a phone or whatever it is. And you really have to fight against it, because if you leave them to their own devices, they're going to figure it out themselves. They're going to make it up themselves.
They're so curious.
Yeah.
Everything is new and exciting and could be something. And, the thing I love is like, clearly like a kid, like you don't know how to drive, but when a kid sees a car, they just immediately are like, I'm gonna I can do this.
You're
Like,
right.
you know, they fill it in. They fill in like what they lack in actual know-how and ability.
Yeah.
They fill it in with their imagination, with sound. It's magic to me. Like, I think
It really is.
it's like,
It's motivating, because
yes,
we lose all that as adults, I
yes,
think. And if
yes,
you're around kids and just
yeah,
see the joy that they
yeah,
find in everything. I mean,
everything.
I wish I could get as that excited over playing hide and seek
Yeah.
or, whatever it is. They get so excited. I
Oh,
mean,
it's the best.
it's as an adult, if we can recapture just a touch of that,
Mhm.
so important.
Absolutely, 100%. That's why I made the decision to really devote, a large amount of my storytelling time, like abilities and
Yeah.
craft, to just considering that. Not even really, like, I don't even think of it as like the little kids table or anything. It's
Yeah.
just like I want a intergenerational experience, because to your point, I think human beings, we need kids around, whether you
Yeah.
have kids or you don't. Like, we're our better selves when kids are around.
That's right.
And I just think there's so much negativity we hear about, so much tumult, and I just think we need to spend a little more time with the kids.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
We need to be around the kids a little more,
I
man.
spend every Friday. That's my day, so I get all of them
Mm.
Fridays, and it's exhausting. My wife is usually working while I'm watching them, but it's the best. And the
Yeah.
reason I started doing that was so that they would have that cousin time together,
Yeah.
so they become close,
Yeah.
and that's what's played out. Now they're
Yeah.
all buddies. So when they
Yes.
come over now, much easier on Papa because they'll
Yes.
play together
Yes.
now.
Self-management. Yeah, exactly. They got their own little
That's
dynamic.
right.
That's beautiful, man. That's something my wife and I have bounced around a lot, like, different jobs, she was in grad school, and then,
Yeah.
and we had kids during all that time, and her mother lives with us now, but we're so far from the other, the other cousins and
Yeah.
aunts and uncles, and that's been tough for us. Um, it's the one thing I think we didn't really consider as much,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
younger parents, but now we're like, damn, just what you described just now is like, damn.
Families, I mean,
That was
it's the biggest reason. I told you we were looking at moving to Portland. The biggest reason we
yeah,
didn't was
yeah,
because our family's here.
it's too
They're all here.
far.
And at that time, we didn't have any grandkids.
Mm,
So thank goodness we stuck around just for
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's far, man. That's the thing about the Pacific Northwest, man. It is hella far. It's just far.
It's out there.
That's the thing I always say. When people are like, "So how you like it out there?" I'm like, "It's great." I'm like, "But it's far." And they're like, "Well, what you mean? What did I'm like, "It's just far. It's just physically far from like
Yeah, it's
all."
just away from everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my wife's favorite thing to do with the grandkids is to cook with them. And I know
Oh, yep.
you had mentioned that as a
Mhm.
good thing, but talk a little bit about that. Why is cooking with
Yeah.
kids a good thing?
Well, I think for a few reasons. One, it's physical, it's tactile,
Yeah.
and it's transformative. Like, they see this object here, looks like
Yeah.
this now, but then it's a journey. It's its own little story in a way too, right? It's collaborative, especially if
Yeah.
they got an adult that's letting them do stuff. Again, all this stuff is
Gives
new.
them that sense of accomplishment type of thing.
Yeah, and it's like it's scooping and it's mixing and it's
Yeah.
mashing and it's cracking and it's fun. It's really fun. And if you're an adult that has a good level of patience,
You got to have a little patience.
it's a cool bonding thing. And they're quick studies. They learn too, and
They do.
they want to do it. My youngest, he's taught us a lot because he's just like has little fear of anything. And
Right.
when you're frying, when we're cooking like hot stuff, he'll just grab his step stool and he'll get really close. And we used to be like, back off, it's hot. And he's just like, if I'm not scared, what you scared,
Right.
And we're kind of like, all right. If you just
Well,
want
that's it. He's learning.
Yeah.
That's going to be useful skills when he gets older.
Yeah. So I think cooking is a real easy, very straightforward, quick thing that you can do with kids, even if it's just making toast, what I mean? Making
Yes.
toast with butter, jelly, something like that, making sandwiches, making eggs. Like,
Well, you're teaching them to be self-sufficient. At
yeah,
some point, they're going to start making their own breakfast and
heck
stuff,
yeah,
even if it's just toast or cereal or whatever.
yeah,
But them getting that, I mean, that's an
yes,
important step for a kid.
100%. And my wife too, early on, she would get these little like kind of like choppers, like,
Yeah.
and so if she was trying to cook something more complicated, she would give him like the bottom part of the celery or
Yeah.
carrots or whatever, and just be like, all right, chop that up for me real good, and it just like, so it's
Yeah,
just
that's
giving him a
awesome.
job, it's just kids also just want to feel like they're in the mix.
It's another thing that kids show you is that we're capable of learning about anything, but we lose the desire to try as we get
100%.
older, where kids, they're just like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, they're like, yeah, of course we can do it. Like, I see that. Yeah, I'll make that.
Yeah. There's no, I'm kind of tired, I'm not going to do it and stuff. They're ready to go whenever.
Hell yes, let's get it. Apron on.
That's right.
Yeah. No,
Are you, and I know the answer to this, but are you got to draw in the lines, or are you okay with them going outside the lines?
Yeah. What lines?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because when I was growing up, I remember everybody was so obsessed with drawing in the lines. That's
lines. Yeah.
they were like teachers, especially, they get so upset if you were outside the lines. And I remember my mother telling one of my teachers at some point, she's like, I don't want them to draw in the lines. You're holding their imagination back when you do that. Let them draw.
Right.
Just let them be free. And that kind of always stuck with me. So, I've tried to pass that on to my kids and grandkids.
That's great.
Just, you draw however you want to draw. It doesn't matter if somebody thinks it's good or not. As long as you like it, it's what you want to do it.
Well, yeah. And it's like, why can't we think about the colors they pick? Like, why did you pick this color? Why did you pick that color? Like, or if you're drawing outside the lines, it's like, can you fill out the whole page? It's just like, let's take a different approach here. Let's engage. It's just about engaging with them. They just want your attention.
Well, and art is so subjective. It's in the eye of the beholder. Somebody may love it, somebody may hate it, and that's okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's just, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like, we have to embrace that. Like, to me, and I run a children's theater here in Seattle. That's what I'm doing in Seattle. So that is my, it's not really a day job. It's just kind of an all the time job, but
I'm betting it takes a lot of time. You gotta have a little patience for that, but it's probably very rewarding.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's hard, but I love it. And the thing that we deal with a lot is sometimes, a parent will see a show and they'll be like, my kid got scared or this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, okay, like, tell us about that, like, okay, cool. All right. Heard. Come see us again. Maybe we'll get it closer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like, here's some tools, or here, but it's like, we can't control that, and I tell this to emerging art, not even just artists, but like anybody in any kind of like service, industry, service field of any kind, is like, whether it's arts or food or any kind of experiential kind of thing, is like, just control what you can control. Know why you're doing it. Do it with intention. Do it with heart and soul. Tell a story. Have your story, and then you fall back and you let the audience tell you the rest. They'll tell you, whatever. And it's impossible. Like, there are very few, if any, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, right? Like, because some people just want to be haters, man. Some people want to be haters. Some people just like don't like an actor's face. Like, I don't.
Well, it's kind of I don't know how big a sports fan you are, but every time we have a Hall of Fame vote, you have those players where they're like unanimous. It's going to be unanimous. Yes. And then there's one person doesn't vote them in. And you're like, what?
What's their deal? I know, it's because they beat their team or whatever. Like, I watched the Tom Brady roast recently, and
I watched
the whole time. I'm like, I can't stand. Like, get him! This guy is ruined.
Well, they got him.
Kevin Hart said, "You've ruined so many Sundays. We about to ruin your Sunday." That's right. I'm like, amen, amen.
Yeah, they got him. That roast was brutal.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Again, something we were all talking about for a little bit.
Well, it was well done.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that I think we were, because it was during that week we were in LA, and we went to see Ali Wong that night,
cool.
which was awesome. She was amazing. She's but after the fact, I was like, Maya should have went to the roast. That was pretty incredible.
It looked epic.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I wanted to ask you about neurodivergent.
Oh yeah.
What does that mean?
So neurodivergency is like speaks to like sort of the wiring of your brain, essentially
Yeah,
like how you process the world, process information, so dyslexia, ADHD, which is what I have.
a lot of
And
people suffer from that. I'll say, although if you learn to kind of handle it, it can
yeah.
be a little bit of an advantage in some situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think the adage of know thyself is always
Yeah,
as good, no matter what. It's
right,
like everyone's got that, superpower, and then they've got certain challenges or deficits.
right,
And, for me, my journey with, and this is what I'm writing about now in this novel, this new sort of semi-autobiographical piece is early on, a guidance counselor talked to my parents about it. I think I was maybe a freshman in high school.
yeah,
And, this is like, 91, maybe 90. And like, this is pre-internet. And
right,
like, like there wasn't we didn't know what that was. Nobody was talking about that in our
yeah,
community. So they took me to a really good, psychologist, and that person was like, yeah, we should prescribe him with this and blah, blah, blah. And I was on this medication for like maybe a couple days, and my parents were like, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm 14." Like,
right,
and we just kind of left it alone. But meanwhile, I really struggled all through high school, which kind of
yeah,
wrecked my confidence, and and I just sort of managed, with these triggers that I didn't have words for,
right,
and feel and what you do is you start to kind of punish, you start to think lesser of yourself, because the world is built a certain way. It is built for a certain kind of what they call neurotypical. But
right.
so you start thinking that you're behind, you start thinking you're abnormal or whatever. And so 30 years later, I finally, I don't even remember what I saw, but just I think somehow like my Instagram algorithm, it was just like, I think this guy is it just started sending me these little ADHD videos. And I took some tests, and then I dug a little deeper, and I
Yeah,
spoke to my physician about it, and he was like somewhat dismissive. And I was like, okay, well, you're not going to be my physician anymore, because I'm
right.
telling you, like, and so then I switched physicians, and that person was like, yeah, they were like,
It's kind of all of those quirks or difficulties, whatever you want to call them. It's taken a while for the medical field to
yeah,
kind of acknowledge them. It started with autism, Asperger's,
yeah,
that type of stuff, and now ADHD is kind of the newest one that we're tackling. Thank goodness, because so many
yeah,
people have trouble with that. But
yeah.
like when I was growing up, there was a lot of kids that probably were suffering
Oh,
from some type of issue,
yeah.
and we just chose to ignore it, or we punished the kid.
Exactly. No, it's just pay attention, whatever. It's not really making space for
Right.
different kinds of experiences. And so it's nobody's fault. I think it is what it is. But what I'm trying to do is just talk about it more. Like for
Yeah, I
me,
love that.
I'm trying to share my own experience. I'm trying to talk about what those challenges look like. I'm very forthcoming in workspaces about, like, listen, I got about an 80-minute of meeting until I got to take a break, because you're going to see me fidget, you're going to see me get antsy, you're going to be talking to me, and you're going to see my eye, something happen to my eyes. And I'm going to switch topics on you, and I'm going to ramble, I'm going to go down exit ramps and up, but I will come back, just like, so it's a lot of grace for me.
Yeah.
And because of the field that I've picked, the profession that I've picked, and the way I've entered it, I've sort of trained myself to be able to like produce thoughts quick, and like take
Right.
thoughts and merge them. And so it's even more accelerated because of that. So I'm on medication. I'm talking with, I have the same, therapist now that I meet with regularly. We check in, and then there's other things too that have nothing to do, that are more holistic and just about, got to get exercise every day, like even a
That's
little
right.
bit, just
Little
stuff like
things to
that,
help.
eating certain things, avoiding other things, kind of knowing what my trigger spots are, knowing where,
Yeah.
because it's ultimately it's low dopamine. It's like I
Right. Right.
have low levels of dopamine. And so all the jumping around and all of that, or when someone's talking to me and they're just going and going, my brain is like, this is not stimulating enough. Like, let's think about, how
Yeah.
much we like the movie The Lost Boys. Like,
Right. Right. Well, and my son that does the podcast with me, he's ADHD,
God
and
bless.
we used to have fun with it when we first started because he was all over the place. He was
Yeah.
so distracted when we were talking, and it was kind of funny at times. And we'd battle, I give him a hard time about getting distracted and that type of stuff. But he was really struggling with that, and he's learned to deal with it better, to cope with it. He knows his triggers. He knows like if he's having a bad day, the best thing for him sometimes is just go exercise or go do something with that. And it's as a father, it's been terrific watching him get a handle on it. Cause now, he knows it, no big deal now. He handles it. It never comes up. You never notice anything with him. He's just very productive now. And it's that kind of showed me it's manageable and you can use it and turn it into even a strength.
Yes.
But you got to acknowledge it first so that you can
100%.
kind of learn what works for you. Sometimes that's medication for some people. Sometimes it's learning coping mechanisms. But it's so important. And I always kind of use him as my example. I was like, well, there you go, because it's night and day the way he is now, the way he was when we first started the podcast several years ago.
Yeah, that's huge, man. So good on you for being a good advocate partner in that, because it can be lonely, man. It can be really, frustrating sometimes.
Well, and it was, and that was it was hurting me. We joke about it and stuff because I didn't want him being so upset with it, but it was hurting me seeing that him struggle.
Yeah.
But he kind of had to get to that point where he's like, I'm going to learn to deal with this.
Yeah.
And that's when it changed. It's one thing for me to be saying, do this, do this, do this. Yeah. He didn't want to do any of that. But when he finally decided, okay, I'm tired of dealing with this, then
that's it. No, that's it. That's it. You got to decide for yourself. I mean, like I say, it came to me at 44 years old.
Yeah.
That's
a long time.
I knew that for 30. I knew it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I just was so whatever. And my folks were just like, you have to tell us what you need. Like, we're not in your head. And I just didn't have the language. I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know anybody else who had, like, I didn't know. So I just was like, whatever, I'll deal with it, But then, now with kids and getting in the executive, I'm like, I can't be blown up. Like, I can't be popping.
That's right.
I would just I'd be so up and down. And I was like, something's got to be going on here.
When you talked about lack of confidence, and that was kind of how it affected him. He just wasn't confident in anything that he was doing. And now he is, the things that he's good at, which a lot of it's this podcast, he's really good at, and he's kind of figured it out.
Excellent.
I'm sure he's still having trouble, but now that's just part of him. He deals with it.
That's it.
It's not derailing his everyday life.
Nope. Knowledge is power. So as long as you self-management, knowing thyself, that's it. You can, we have the tools, to your point. Like, there's plenty of things you can do if you need to step out of, you let people know. Like, I have 80 minutes that I can be in this meeting.
That's right.
If you want,
and then I gotta go.
If you're fine with me, 80 minutes of me at my best, and then like another 30 of me, we'll see how it goes.
All over the place. Yeah.
Let's roll. I might get up and leave at some point.
So the book is Your House Is Not Just a House.
Yes, it is.
Came out on the 7th, I think, right?
Yes,
of May.
So
7th, it's brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah, and it's worth like as a parent, I would highly recommend it. As a grandparent, I would even more.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, it really, like, I loved it because I was a kid with a big imagination. And it just, every page, I'm like, I've done that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's since the parent is reading it, right? Typically. So it's also a message it's an invitation to the parent too. And what we just did this in Seattle. We had our Seattle book party. Lorraine, the illustrator, flew out from New York, and we partnered with it was at a wonderful place called Town Hall, which is like this cool facility just for gathering and
That's awesome.
Talk and hang. Fry Museum, which is this great art museum here in town that's free. Their thing is that everything's free admission. They have a lot of family interactive art making events, so they partner with us. Seattle Children's Theater, where I work, partnered with us and did what they call story drama, where they kind of like wake the book up. You know, they still hold the book, but it's like, all right, everyone, now, you know, do this, and we just had a beautiful party. It was like, you know, it's like a story and art making party around the book, and that's kind of the model. That's kind of what I'm trying to go out and do to promote the book, is like trying to do these little drop-in story and art book parties, you know, where we read the book and we celebrate but then I invite the kids and their parents to, okay, now you're gonna write some words and make some pictures that go
I like that.
Saying to me, that's like, because that's what the book is asking. Like,
you're inspiring them a little bit.
It's an invitation. And so that's it's just it's been one of the most positive. It's been such a positive experience.
We'll pass that on to Brett, because his day job, he's a children's librarian. I'm going to suggest that, because they have that all the time. Local writers, a lot of times it's children's books, and that's exactly the type of party he needs to start throwing for those.
Let's go.
Yeah, I love that. Well, sir, thank you for taking a little bit of time. I love what you're doing. I think you're a talented guy, and I know you've written, 60 or so plays? I mean, unbelievable.
A lot of plays.
Unbelievable. Couple of things, though, before I let you go. You mentioned another book. Is there anything else you're working on that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Oh, wonderful. So you know, going to be pushing the book through the end of the year. So please enjoy. I'm an active playwright. So I did an adaptation of one of my favorite books when I was a kid, which is Dr. DeSoto by William Steig. William Steig is most famous. He wrote the book Shrek, that the movies Shrek are based on.
Yeah.
But my favorite growing up was Dr. DeSoto, which is like what I call like a modern Aesop tale of a mouse dentist and who doesn't treat predators, or he only treats herbivore mammals.
Right.
And he takes pity on this fox with this rotten bicuspid, and he has to climb inside the fox's mouth and get the bicuspid out without getting eaten. And so it's about how him and his wife, who's his assistant in the dental practice, how they outfox this fox. And so I was really interested in like the sight of big puppets on stage with human-sized mouse actors. So that's going to happen at Alliance Theater in Atlanta in January.
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah, very excited about that, because that's just like, I love that book. My kids love that book. And it's a little lesser known, and like I want folks to know that one. So working on that, and then like I say, I'm hoping to get this my next book, which is a YA novel, out in the world by next fall of 25. Is my hope.
It'll be here before you know it.
Knock wood. But folks, please keep up with me. I have a website. It's just idrisgoodwin.com. I'm always doing stuff. I have a podcast I do every week. It's very short. It's like 75.
It seemed like you'd maybe done a podcast at some point. You seem comfortable.
I rap. I do like a 75, 80-minute rap that encapsulates the headlines of the week. So it's called the Breakbeat Week, and you can get it on Spotify or Apple Music.
That's a step above, us talking head types.
I mean, it's really more so. It's how I make sense of the world. It's how I stay informed, and I feel like there's so much going on. It's like a more digestible way to just give people the headlines and have a bit of fun. And it just keeps me practicing. I haven't changed a bit, man. Like,
do you act at all in your plays?
I don't. I'm too lazy to learn. Too lazy to be an actor. It's hard work, man. Acting is hard work. To even be like decent, to even be the guy that's like, there he goes, whatever. Like, even to be that guy, it takes a lot of work. So I have too much respect for the craft of acting. But I perform. I think
that's what I'm going to start telling people. And that's why I don't act. I've got too much respect for the
It's hard. No, it's hard, bro. Exactly, man.
Has nothing to do with the talent level.
Well, I mean, listen, I believe make believe Make believe is in all of us, but the craft of acting is a different beast. But I think anybody could do a little bit of, I mean, even if you are just like,
Yeah.
you know, being
Well,
like,
there's a yes. I think all of us have the ability to do
yes,
small acting roles. I think
exactly. Yes.
there's a different like if you have you ever watched a really good actor with whatever the monologue is or whatever, but just unbelievable scene where they act. I mean, it's amazing what some people were able to do.
I just rewatched. So now what's been really cool is like now that HD TVs are more commonplace and
Yeah.
streaming is so available, all these movies I used to watch a ton back in the VCR days that looked like crap.
Right.
These movies look brand new to me now because it's like they're in 16:9, they're like, HD. I'm like, whoa, this movie looks new. And so I recently rewatched True Romance, that Tarantino movie, True
Gosh,
Romance.
Christian Slater.
And
Patricia
that
Arquette.
monologue, that monologue. First of all, the Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken scene remains like
Unbelievable.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
But there's this little, it's my least favorite part of the movie, but there's this scene where James Gandolfini, pre-Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini shows up to collect this money from Alabama, Patricia Arquette. And it's a really violent, brutal part of the movie. But there's this moment where he's given this monologue about the first time he kills somebody. And I swear to God, man, I almost started crying. It was so good. Like his performance of that moment, and just knowing that this guy is gone too and had like a lot of sort of demons, and that James Gandolfini passed. I mean, that was a moment where I was like, wow, like acting, like, you know what I mean?
know.
But yeah,
A really good actor is just like, wow. Because I think a lot of people think, well, anybody could act. Anybody could do that. But that's not true.
That's not true.
I mean, yes, it's
level,
true.
there's
You can do
levels
it,
to
but
it.
there's levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, anybody could show up and be like, thank you, Captain America. Like, yes. Don't do it, Thanos. Yes, like I like non-actors. When I cast plays or short films or whatever, I sometimes like to mix. I think quote unquote non-actors add
I like
something.
that. Makes it more real, I think.
But yeah, if we got to deliver the big monologue, where
you need a pro.
Where James Gandolfini is collecting the money from Alabama and talking about when he first killed somebody, I need somebody who did Hamlet last week.
That's right. Well, sir, you got an open invitation. When you got the next thing ready, come back, please. We got to do this again.
Right on. It's my pleasure talking with you, Mike Wall. Appreciate you.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on just a second.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed that one. Idris Goodwin. I think I got it close on that one. He was terrific. Just a really talented guy. The book is Your House is Not Just a House. Make sure you check that out. It's available now. If you've got a young one, kid or a grandkid, they will absolutely enjoy that. So important that we encourage use of the imagination. I have such fond memories of growing up and just playing by myself. I'm very close with my brother. I had a great neighborhood of kids, friends that spent a lot of time with. But I had some of the best times just sitting by myself playing, and I think that's so important. As a pawpaw, I struggle with keeping the kids away from the electronics. It's tough, and it gets harder as they get older. So really important that we take advantage of those younger years to build them that base. So it helps them when they get older. I wanted to bring up a couple of little things that we talked some about the neurodivergent issues, and I brought up Brett. He's been very open with his struggles, so I felt pretty comfortable doing that. There's so many of us that are dealing with something along those lines. My stepson Sean, who is the most talented musician I've ever encountered, and I've been around some amazing ones. He has Asperger's, and we struggled dealing with that when he was young, but we put the work in, and he's an amazing young man now. He's He's got a family, 2 kids of his own. They're incredible. Sean is an amazing musician. It definitely hasn't held him back, so we're thankful for that. My stepdaughter Allie is like Brett. She struggles with ADHD. She has learned that her best self is one that stays busy. So the busier, the better for her. It kind of helps her, helps center her, and helps her to control, the madness, so to speak, because there's so much kind of coming in on her at one time. But she does great with that, and it's so important. And we talked about it on this episode to find those ways to cope. Sometimes it's with medicine, sometimes it's with coping mechanisms, but it's so important. And I love the fact that Idris uses his platform as a way to help other people that have those. I don't really want to call them issues, because it's just something that some of us has to deal with, and there's positives and negatives that come along with that. But I love the fact that he's just getting that awareness out there. So the book, Your House is Not Just a House. Make sure that we support him with that. I wanted to mention too that those of you that have been with the program for a while, and thank you for being here. I've mentioned a few times, I'm dealing with some health issues. We're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. One of the side effects I'm having with that is that I'm having hot flashes, and you may notice that on the podcast on occasion, because it hits me so fast, and I just get sweaty looking. You might not want to trust me as much, because I'm kind of sweaty at times. So apologies for that if it was noticeable. One of the I'm having some issues with my face. The muscles are tightening at times, so it's giving me a little trouble talking. And at times my face just it's kind of itchy, kind of bugging me where I have to fight to not touch my face during interviews. So I'm fine. I'm okay. It's just stuff that I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But if you're noticing that, my apologies, and thank you for sticking with us with that. If you're finding us for the first time, our website is meistercon.com. You can find almost 800 episodes now, audio and video on there. So please check us out. It'll let you know if we're doing anything in studio, if we're covering a convention, going on location, anything we have going on. Be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. Really does help us out. It's free, but you can also find us there. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.